Hello,
I'm so
Marina.
glad to be here.
This is going to be so hard in the very beginning not to talk over you. So why don't you just start?
Oh gosh. I
Okay.
love it when you talk over me because that means I don't have to talk. And I could just be. Oh, I don't know. I was thinking about, we did the Radical Trust and it was almost what, a year and a half ago almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at it because it helps me. It's like it's a reminder for me sometimes. But there were like things that I'm like, wow, we've like leaps and bounds from even
From then.
then.
Yeah.
And so I'm like really excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Did we even have I Love Us then? I don't even think we did. Did we? I don't even know.
I don't remember, but yeah, you want to talk about that?
I love the you and us,
I love the you and us. And there's just so much in that even, because there's these concepts, people talk about these concepts of we're all one and blah, 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 but when you really truly get to experience that truly there is no separation. So when I'm talking and it's like there is, and you spoke to that at Radical Trust, how it's this epigenetic, influence, but it's like when you recognize that and then it's like easy, it's so wonderful. I love getting a dose of that. And if that means I have to go to Radical Trust that we recorded and just get a
Right.
dose of us there, that's good.
That's beautiful.
That's still good.
I love the idea that we're better together. And it's true. And you know what's so weird is that not every pair does what we do. And I don't have well, Bonnie's pretty close. Amala's pretty close.
Yeah.
As far as, like when I'm with Bonnie, I don't know if you know this, but I really like being with her alone. It's like the experience that, I have. And so it's the usness that I miss when we're in a group.
Yeah.
It's almost better when it's like intimate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
then we can
yeah.
go here without the epigenetic
Without
influence of
all
others.
the other
And it's just
things.
purely us.
Yeah.
And so you are an us. And so when I say I love the you in us, like us is spelt US,
Yeah.
it's because you bring an usness to me that I don't experience otherwise. And I'm better with you, you're better with me. And so the usness takes it.
It's when you're in that awareness that I feel like you even have a chance, you have the opportunity to wield that. Because if there's other influences and they have a, reason for being, right? They have a reason, and you may not like be in that swirl, you're not quite like resonating at that. So you're not quite wielding that pristine power. So
I think the best thing about pristine power is that it requires an openness, and that when you do come in with an agenda, that skews what you access, what you perceive, what you can assess, like with the real state. And so if you can be void of an agenda and really truly sit at the table of open and honest inquiry and just wait for something to pour in, that's pretty pristine. But the minute you want to say, I have an agenda, I've noticed, and there's this line that just came out pretty recently, about a month or so, and it has to do with, to the degree that you're ambitious with an agenda is the exact degree in which you are most vulnerable to corruption. And it really is true, to being corrupted, and we're all corrupted. And so we have a lot of work to do to clean it up, and we can only clean it up not through more knowledge, because that knowledge could be corrupted. We can only get it through openness. And to the degree that we're packing an agenda, or, ambitious or aggressive agenda, then we're not as open. And so we're not able to really clean up all the inner corruptions that are in us. And so things like that. And, I don't know how engaging that understanding is, but it runs in the background for me. But it feels awkward to share it, because with you, we could just do it in the blue. I don't even have to explain it to you. We just like places, we just do it.
We get it.
Yeah. And so that's it. I think that's probably the biggest one in wielding pristine power. Go ahead.
There are things that you say that really, that stick that I love, but then there are things that you say that really help me to get into that mode of, and without even analyzing it, because, I don't really care to analyze. I just care to be like, in the knowing. But and it's what you do and what you speak to and what I keep running in the back of my mind when I'm interacting with whoever. And that is that people are not necessarily bad people. They just haven't had their sovereignty, their essence, their the love that they are really nurtured and really supported. And I really feel like when we come together, I so feel supported, because it's like we all have stories, right? We've talked about this all the time, and we all have like, for whatever reason we come in with whatever we come in and we experience whatever we experience, and unless that, but when you start looking at somebody, that they're not even in touch with that part of themselves. How could they even offer that to anybody else? So if I'm in touch, right? So when we come in and we play with these concepts, and then I feel so supported and I feel like, oh, that part of me is really being nurtured. And it doesn't even, like it's just so pure, it's innocent and it's pure. And then I carry that, right? And then I can remind myself of that, like, oh, this person just hasn't had that experience. It literally changes. It literally changes, like any story that we can tell ourselves to justify any hurt.
I want to speak into that.
Yeah.
You said something really powerful. Life has it set up in such a way that when you're off, you get a wake-up call to go back on.
Right.
But unfortunately, the corruption is such that many people, when they're off, they quickly try to fix it.
Right.
And they go right to like, Houston, we have a problem here. Yeah. And they don't sanctify the fact that it's showing up for a reason to help you be on. Right. So that is a form of corruption right there, that you're always trying to fix something that you don't like or that hurts. Well, that system is there to help you get to the places that we're at. Yeah. And so if you are allowing, I call it mental override, the corruption to dominate your approach, like how you go about doing things, you're never going to end up to the place that you want to, because you're playing around or following a broken paradigm, if you will, or an incomplete paradigm, or a paradigm that doesn't really help you function at your highest. So when we're doing what we're doing and you're feeling what you're feeling, you're functioning more optimally, you're seeing more clearly, and that's really where quality of life comes from being clear. Yeah. Now, you could be clear that something's wrong, but are you really clear? And you could be convinced that something's wrong, but by not sanctifying it, you can never really get to the level of clarity that you think you're enjoying by assessing that something's wrong and throwing it under the bus. Does that help?
That is absolutely perfect. So I love when we come together because you have the words, like I said, and I'm just in that resonance, and that is absolutely perfect. And, last weekend when you did the Catalyst,
class,
and I had a session, and in that session, it was so profound because and I think I shared that with the group, the realization of, what if, like literally, what if everything in our reality was set up so that we can literally get to that point.
What if? Could you imagine?
Can you just entertain that?
You want to talk about pristine power? Yeah. We are allowed to be the arbiters of that. It's a choice. We don't have to be we're following truth. Right. You want to follow truth? There's multiple truths, and it's really about choice. And does it have to be true? Well, what if you believe it to be true? Isn't that enough? Aren't you that powerful? And if you are, don't you want to wield that kind of power? Or are you going to be like, I don't want to wield that power. I want it told to me what's ultimately true. And feel it. Yeah. You could play with this. Wield this power.
I love talking about the multiple truths, because people, not even in this day and age, for all of eternity, have been so convinced, this is the truth and I'm the right, And it's it's that, it's that whole concept with the elephant, and
you got it.
Yeah. And so
3 blind men and the elephant.
Yeah. And so everybody's convinced that they're having, so when you start to, really truly gain that greater level of awareness, of, wielding that, and the love, it's amazing. But when you start really playing with all of that, and even, especially because you speak to this all the time, especially when things are not sort of going in my way, or favorable or enjoyable.
You actually are, but you're not the way that you're
but you're
thinking
not-
it should go to go your
It's
way.
just not-
It's always going your way.
Right,
It can
right.
never not go your way. You may not agree with how it's going, but it's always going your way. And then you could say,
Right.
it's not going my way. And since you're that powerful, now it's not going your way. But it was always going your
It's
way.
always going your way. But what I wanted to speak to is that, when you start observing that, and when you start looking at that, then you really are evolving, right, into a greater you, right?
Right, that's it.
And so your perceptions change. So you now are looking things from a different perception of who you are. So your truth is actually going to change.
Right, it's
so-
malleable.
Yeah,
All
it's
versions of you
malleable,
change.
yeah.
Everybody loves a parade. Just watch all the versions just walk right by you.
So I'm really baffled when people are just so, sticking to their guns, and it's like, you do realize that you're just literally boxing yourself in.
Absolutely.
And that's cool if that's where you want to be.
What if it's just in alignment with the integrity of their process? What if they don't even want to be there, but they're locked in that way? We can trust it because it's the integrity of their process,
Yeah. It's pretty good. I was anticipating you asking me what's been going, because there's been a lot going on, right?
Okay, what's been going on?
I was anticipating that, but
My going with itness is off the charts. So, hey, why don't you report in on where you've
Well,
gone
so,
since the last time we spoke? Because it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but there has been a lot going on. But really, what I wanted to if I didn't really have an agenda, but I was like, if I'm true to myself, the way that I would love to answer that is not necessarily go into the details of what was going on, because it's just life, right? Life just happens. But I really wanted to talk to how I've observed myself in situations.
Do you think you have it in your head, where you're going to go with that? Or is it something you're going to, stream of consciousness you're going to observe? Do you have a
I
sense?
think that this is speaking to, the whole pristine power, wielding all of that, because...
Can I interject something since you said it's okay?
Yeah.
So I want to tell people that your dad just recently died.
Yeah,
I really do want to tell
yeah,
this story because it
yeah.
really was
Yeah.
more moving for me than you can imagine when I saw a post that you wrote and you quoted the line. You quoted two lines, and I'm going to try my best to remember them right now. You probably
Well, they're
remember
your
them.
lines.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. But it meant so much to me during such a tender time, and I knew how challenging that was at the time. And you did amazingly well, but then I saw your posts, and it didn't have to be forever.
Yeah.
That was one. Oh, and then from the artifacts, may all of your journeys be light,
Right,
the great send-off. And then I saw that you had posted both of those, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it
me
right
too.
now,
Yeah.
because these things, these concepts, they're only concepts until you apply them, and they have the most benefit when you need them the most. And here you were recruiting those lines, because it's not my lines. They're, again, I'm just a midwife. They're lines that came through me. I said, I have to, what is it, the word? I have to reject all accolades, but I can sure as hell brag about my children and my music, my songs, these concepts, my work. And I think this work really is, but when you used it when you needed it most, it really hit me, because a lot of people don't do that. They can get distracted by the minutia or the density or the intensity of life, that they can forget these concepts and they sacrifice wielding their pristine power. But when you used it in those critical moments, you now not only enhance your quality of life, but you don't compromise, or even you enhance optimal functioning. You get it?
And not only do I feel like that's exactly what happened, I really truly moved through whatever I needed to move through, right? Without judging it, or without, being hard on myself, and it was a challenging moment because, as I shared with you, there's a certain level of vulnerability that I just had to let it. And I observed myself being uncomfortable in that, but it was all perfect. It was all brilliantly perfect. And
you let it rain. You got to experience the vulnerability
really
like experiencing rain. You let it.
And then I watched, I literally watched how that had the ripple effect, not just in my interactions, so my parents were married for 60 years.
It's incredible.
Which is
amazing.
Amazing, so And you know, and I grew it's a whole thing. I mean, that is like, that's a book right
Go
there.
anywhere
But
you want, though. Don't worry about it. If it comes stream of consciousness, go for it. Just let
yeah,
it
it's
go.
so, you know, my parents immigrated, right? So
Mm-hmm.
my dad was Jewish, right? Russian Jew, and my mom's Orthodox, and so they married. And my dad, you know, I didn't even know some of the stories. I grew up with him as being very like stoic, just not warm and fuzzy and cuddly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I don't know a lot of men from that era that
Mm-hmm.
really, you
Were
know, were
cuddly.
right. So, but then there was another level of him that I, you know, didn't really even realize until like my adult life was they, he was raised by a single mom and a brother who also passed, who was 8 years old. So they were in Kiev when the Nazis were invading. He was like an infant.
Mm.
He literally was an infant, and they were literally like running for their lives, right? Because there was a war and there was an invasion and, you know, survival and all. So I'm like, wow, okay, cool. I get your story. Like, I see like where you came from. Now
Right.
I see that
The influence and how you
the
got to be
influence,
who
and
you
you're
were.
really doing the best that you could do. Now, was it
Absolutely.
exactly like what I wanted or what I needed, what I thought I needed? You know, I mean, who's to say? Because here I am, and can I say the word?
Yeah, I want to talk on that
I
because
fucking love myself, you know.
you
So it's
should.
like he did, you know, like for like we want to judge, like, oh, you know, he didn't give me this, and he didn't, you know, but he really truly did the best that he could with
Right.
what was given to him, and maybe it wasn't in his stars, you know, to like change all the things, you know, but he did stick it out with my mom and with the family, and he was a provider. That was the role that he stepped into, that he knew, you know, or he thought was important. You know, you provide, right? So I don't know. I wouldn't have the strength to be able to just pick up the family and
Right.
move to the unknown and, you know, all of that, but they did. And so, you know, I kind of rebelled against, you know, because I always felt like, oh, I really wanted, you know, that like that male figure that was my protector, that looked after me. He wasn't that, you know, he was kind of absent. But he went to work and he came back, and when he came back he was still absent. And but like I said, it's like life brings you, you know, where it does, you know, and his role was perfect in the evolution of who I am. And so it wasn't really until like the adult stages of my life where I really, you know, I did a lot of work. I've done a lot of work on myself, but I was able to really get beyond, like I said, those stories that you can tell yourself to keep you in the hurt, right? To keep you stuck in that box. And so I was able to clear all of that, and I was really found myself like with little moments throughout my adult life where I started seeing him in a different light. And it was like, oh, okay, so now I'm changing. I'm actually seeing me in a different light. So I can actually see, oh, I'm going to start crying, him in a different light, you know?
Which is outside of your own
Which was so outside
your
of
own little perception.
outside of my perception. So like that's the box that we, you
Right.
know,
There
that
it
we
is.
talk
There it
about. It's
is.
like the more I change, the more I even allowed myself the space to like be kinder to myself and see myself in a different light. Then I can start seeing everybody. And you know, parents, they're so close to us, right? So we like it's harder, right?
Oh, I've got to unpack that. Oh, really? Let me unpack
Okay,
that
go
because
ahead.
this is no, this
I
is
need a
big.
break.
You're all emotional anyway, but this is
Yeah.
really big. Let me say this. When we're born, we are so amazingly dependent. There's nothing we can do. We can't even think for ourselves. We're not even sure that we're
Right.
alive. We have a mother, we're on the boob, you know,
Right.
we have so many needs. It's dependent beyond belief. And then as we get older, our parents can't continue to allow us to be so incredibly dependent. They have to allow us to go explore the
Mm-hmm.
world. But remember, when we're born, we're used to getting everything we've ever needed, ever, because we have to, not just, you know, changing
Right.
the diaper, everything. You got to
Right.
get how significant this really is. And then all of a sudden, we look back at our childhood and we see that we have unmet needs.
Right.
Do you understand that the reason we're so messed up with our childhood is because we're actually believing that those needs were supposed to be met by our parents, but they met our needs when we were the most dependent. The minute we start getting older, they start not meeting all of our needs, and we're not used to that. We're like, hey, wait a minute, we were the center of attention, and so a lot of the stuff that we're processing now is because we don't know as children, because we're children, that we're inheriting meeting our own needs and taking care of ourselves and becoming independent. But we're so in that cusp between being dependent and where you are today with your level of awareness that we look back and go, I wasn't seen. It was like, that's because all that time you were supposed to see yourself, and you were supposed to begin to start meeting your own needs. And look at how now you've done that. You're taking great care of yourself, but I still have to go back with most people and go, can we please forgive them? Yeah. Because what you didn't know at the time, while you're so clear that your needs weren't being met, they were being met. You just didn't know that you were supposed to meet those needs yourself, that you were to take the baton and start caring for yourself and let your parents off the hook because they did what they needed to do when they needed to do it, and it wasn't negotiable. And now to get you more dependent, you had to start meeting your own needs, and no one ever told you that. They didn't know that. You weren't aware of that. All you knew is that what you were used to, unconditional love and having everything ever met, all of a sudden just stopped. And that was like, as you're getting older, well, now you know that every need, that's what we call it reparenting. Now you can be the parent and give your child, your inner child, all the needs that it ever wanted, because you didn't know that was what that was. You were always looking outside of yourself to get those needs met. And when they weren't met, you were like having a hissy fit, like a little temper tantrum. Do you want to speak on that? Because that's all.
I really do, because that's something that actually kind of happened organically, was this realization that it actually almost made it a little bit easier for me to do what I needed to do because of who he was. So I don't know, there was like I think there was like a level of gratitude that just sort of bubbled up, because it was like when you start to change that perception for yourself, when you start to change that story for yourself, and you get that level of awareness that now like you're open to really seeing how beautiful, because there is like an incredible, like the wisdom that you talk about, and it's beautiful, because it did allow me to sort of organically perpetuate into like this amazing gratitude. And when you're in gratitude, it's like what can be wrong?
Right, you're functioning optimally.
You're like,
if you're gratitude, you're already clear because you're grateful.
Right, you're so grateful. So, it was amazing, because like having had that, when you clearing all of that, I was really able to stay present, and I just wanted like two things. I wanted him to know that he wasn't alone and I was there with him. And I wanted him to know that he's loved. And at the, like you talk, at the end of the day,
what else is there?
Matters? Like what else matters? Really? It doesn't matter, like, what he bought me, what he didn't buy me, where he took me, where he didn't take. That doesn't.
His human moments where he was less than the most attractive dad that you could ever want. But we're not perfect. This is one of my newer lines. Can you be a safe person for somebody to have flaws? Or do they need to be perfect? And when they reveal to you that they're not perfect, you're going to get triggered or take it personally when it's a reflection of them, not you. I'm thinking
that's a good one.
It's a great one. Yeah. Right now, I'm at the point where I'm learning how to be a safe place, safe zone, to be a safe place for people to be flawed, including myself. Yeah. But I've watched people want to criticize my flaws. And it's like, oh, so I'm not safe to be flawed. You need me to be perfect. Are you perfect? Will I ever be perfect? Am I getting better? How am I doing? Am I on the path, the trajectory? How am I doing? What, am I not going fast enough for you? I'm not committed to this enough. And you can be as messed up as you want, literally, because you're not messed up. You're always in perfect alignment with the integrity of your process. That's a form of sanctification or the overlay. And so if I'm going to choose to see that, because that's wielding pristine power, now I'm seeing you. I'm helping you function better because I'm helping you make peace with your process, with the integrity of your process. And at the same time, I'm not throwing you under the bus. because you're not doing what my arrogance believes you need to be doing, or you're not doing what my arrogance believes you should be doing.
There's no agenda. There's no agenda in me wanting you to see you somewhere other than where you are.
Exactly.
And
to be safe for them to be where they are. And we all have to be somewhere. We're all working on something. So why can't it be that? Why can't this be the quote unquote imperfection that you're working on, or your flaws, which is really a paradox because they're perfect. They're really not even flaws. The sins are necessary sins because you're to work on them. What you resist persists.
I want you to share that thing that you, when last week when I was over the We Could Never Be Broken. Do you have that near you?
I have it? Let me see. Thank you.
I think that is so...
I was bragging when I shared this to you. You know why I was bragging? Because I woke up at 5:55 in the morning, and this is what I wrote. And I was like,
and it's
I work
so brilliantly perfect.
Oh my God, that's so
love it, and I want that on, so that I can really.
Here we go.
Yeah,
I found it. So 5:55. Let me get the date. March 20th, Friday, March 20th, 2026. In case this is many years later.
Yeah.
You can never be broken. You can believe you're broken. Broken is a concept. The broken concept. You get the consequence of every choice you make. The choice point is real. Every concept you entertain gets high test fuel. Mm-hmm. You are that powerful.
I love that. It is...
Broken is a concept.
Broken is a concept.
One of my favorite things is Jupiter 2 degrees off? I mean, you know what I'm saying? No, we laugh at that, but then in our body we say, hey, something's a little off. Well, if Jupiter isn't off, nothing in here is off.
Right.
Now, just because you don't like it, don't be so arrogant or don't be so condemning to assume that it's bad or it's wrong just because you don't like it or it doesn't feel good. You're not doing what you want to do, or you want your body to do what it's not. The whole thing is, once you curse one part, you're cursing the whole. If you see us as one, and that we are one, or that there's wisdom, and that Jupiter or Saturn is never 2 degrees or a millidegree off, then that's true in your life.
Yeah.
And even though you may not like it,
right?
If you can allow yourself to not like it, well, then that's the integrity of your process. But when you can start seeing it as what it is, happening for you, not to you, and you can sanctify it, go for it.
We need to modify it's happening for you, not to you.
Please.
It's happening for you, for your actual greater.
Right, for your in touchness, for your awareness, for that you can be your going with itness, so that you could be more in touch. If you sanctify it, if you're grateful for it, then you can handle it better because you're seeing it in its truer light. Once you see that it's broken, you're already behind the 8 ball because you're already functioning from a bad assumption. We call it a soapbox. That's what I'm saying about multiple truths. If you're in one truth, that one truth becomes a soapbox. How many people are ideologically possessed? All I have to do is say Trump, and you got your pro-Trumps going crazy, or your anti-Trumps going crazy, and it's like, one person is not all good or all bad. And I'm not trying to look. I understand our culture, and I understand our obsession with winning a battle that can never be won. The fight for good and evil. The fight for. We believe that we own the totality of truth. Right. That is just absolutely insane. And even if we were right, it's such a small portion of the greater truth that it's almost unintelligent to cite it because it's so insignificant. And that's if it's true. And most of the things we're saying are so not true. We know they're incomplete. They're always incomplete. Right. And if there's multiple truths, then what you're saying, if it had any truth whatsoever, I'm not sure if it applies right here the way you're using it.
And you know what? It's like there's no magic in that. Like the way you live in that paradigm, where, somebody's right and somebody's wrong, and, and there's this like truth and untruth and like whatever. There's like no... Like, where's the magic in that?
Right. Let me tell you.
Like, we're just fighting.
The human brain really does have a tendency of wanting to synthesize all experiences into one home of understanding. But if that home of understanding has been corrupted and has been funneled, and you've been funneled to think this way, cognitive bias, then everything that happens goes into that funnel. What if I told you that the only singular truth is that there are multiple truths? Yeah. And that's the one home of understanding. Yeah. It's almost like, be humble. I am the wisest of all, for I know nothing. So that is the reality. If you can go that there are multiple truths, And that's the home of understanding, rather than trying to put it all into one truth, one aspect, one component of the truth. I wrote a song the other day, and it came out on the new album, Open Skies, and it says one truth. So look it up on Amazon or whatever, what is Spotify? It's the third to last song, right before the one I wrote for Francis Swagger. So, but that's one truth is a lie. Yeah. There's more than one. It's hard to trust, hard to know. Can't you see how it goes? One mouth running the show. Words seem nice. They're a lie. Incomplete. Every channel holds part of the truth. Yeah. We all have part of the truth. Yeah. And when you get a truth that really is true and it's just part of the truth, don't start parading it like you now own the totality of truth. Right, it was never meant to be the totality of truth. So get off your soapbox, get out of your channel, start wielding your greater power, be more open. Yeah. But we're not encouraged to do that, because we are more controllable when we are corrupted and we think we're broken or we're trying to fight each other because this one truth is beating this one truth. And it's like,
I really want to speak to that because there's a moment in my life where what you just spoke about was very personal. And I kind of I watched myself transform in my reality when I realized, like, making peace with that what is, right? So, everybody has their own different threshold of how much level of uncomfortableness they can tolerate. And I happen to hold like a really high threshold.
You have moments.
I have I can do this and, fight through it. And there was a moment where, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, where I was just like literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, like all levels, mentally, I just was exhausted. Like things cannot, because I was watching myself like sort of, be in the zone of, and I'm being vague, but it had to do around, my daughter that has muscular dystrophy. And it was like, nothing's ever going to change. Even though she doesn't live with me, like she still comes back, like my life is still what it is. Like it was all of this negativity, passive aggressive,
exerting power, just not pristine power,
until, and for everybody, it's comes at a different moment, I'm sure. But for me, it was like something has to change. And I finally realized that the circumstances were not going to do it.
Nothing external is going to do it.
Nothing externally is going to change.
You had calls to answer.
And and like, okay, that's like, but you can apply that towards anything. Mm-hmm. Nothing no matter how no matter what you do, who you vote, like no matter what, group you're, nothing externally.
Thank you for laughing, because I'm having so much fun with the intensity and the way you're saying nothing. Like as if saying it stronger makes it more. I love your passion, because I have that same passion, but I see it in you.
Because I had to, I've been there. I was like trying to change and fix and, get all the support. It's still not going to change.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that you had to go through those seasons? And those seasons necessary. They're not like they were never wasted. Not a wasted moment, not a wasted tear, not a wasted pain, not a wasted temper tantrum, not a wasted celebration.
Right. So it was really, in that like giving up and realizing that this, what is it that you say? Making peace with
the mystery.
That I
had, the unknown, that
I had to kind of like look at it and be like, okay, well, what can change? So that, and it's my relationship. It's our relationship with the external is the only thing that can change. There it is.
That is it. And you can always enhance that relationship. And you want to, because if your relationship with the external is negative, you're going to get the manifestation of of entering into an adversarial relationship with something that you're arrogantly viewing as negative.
And those are the consequences. That's what, when you say like nothing is broken.
We have that power. It's just not pristine power. This is the key. That's why I have to say wielding pristine power, because everybody's like, learn how to manifest this, learn how to manifest that. As if like, I learned the hack of life, and it's like this. Like, we're all going to be in pain. We're all going to die, right? Mm-hmm. How come you don't talk about that? Because you're leaving that out. You really are. You're almost giving the illusion that we can do anything. There's a going with itness. There's a form of cooperation. Stop ignoring that or pretending that, because you're trying to sell something, that everything's going to go the way you want. All you have to do is know these concepts, and then boom, you're going to get everything you want. No, you're going to get everything you need. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Thank you, Mick Jagger. Really.
But it really starts to kind of mess with, what we believe and what we think we know, and, those things.
The corruption.
It really,
what's supposed to.
It starts to kind of make us,
If you're humble, it'll actually purify the corruption. And really, if you're humble, but if you're going to advocate for your initial animal brain reaction and the little tunnel that you live in and fight on that behalf, what hope do you have to grow? Hence why the name greaterness is great, greater, greatest. And then there's a greaterness or successions. Keep moving forward. Right? Those words are so important. They
really, truly are.
They are. They're so amazing because there's no ceiling to quality of life improvements, and we can always improve. And if we can always improve and we're not improving or choosing to improve, we're getting the natural consequence of that.
But I would pay attention to when you are improving. So when, being mindful of, okay, so even if you don't know how to change, even if you don't have and that's actually better that you don't have and a script on how to do whatever, because then you're playing with that wisdom.
Well, you have a script, but it's being revealed to you. TBR.
It's being revealed. Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
So, when you're paying attention to that, then it's like, okay, so if I did this, or if then you're seeing those natural consequences that are actually gentler and more favorable, and that kind of perpetuates you to okay, maybe I should
But again, the only reason it's more favorable is because you're actually applying the wisdom, because you're sanctifying it, because you're cooperating with it, because you're exalting it, because you're saying it has a purpose, everything has a reason. And that is the significant choice point that makes it peaceful. The pain is when you're having an adversarial relationship to it. And so it's still in the throes of a choice, the choice point, and that point ripples. So we feel like PTSD from prior choices that other people made that hurt us, and then we're still having it today, like the pain just happened today. And it's that's because we never really processed it. And what I mean by that is if you process something poorly, you're not processing it. Just touching upon it or talking about it or having a temper tantrum or saying, I'm going to talk about this wrong thing that my father did to me. You could do that, but you're never going to heal. And then you're waiting for your father to heal you. Well, your father can apologize, but if you don't really mature it up for yourself and realize that you are responsible for taking care of yourself. Your dad did a good job. He changed your diaper when he needed to and all that. Or mom. I mean, same thing, right? But now, you're at the point where you have to care for yourself. And if you're such a victim because your mother or your father didn't meet your needs, that was because you were supposed to start developing your power and wield your own power and care for yourself. Please start doing that now. That's the best way you will ever forgive your parents. It's the most important thing you can do is start recognizing that you were a child when you were having a temper tantrum, that your needs weren't met, but you're not a child now. So tell that child you were being empowered and give that child what it always needed. See yourself the way you've always wanted to be seen. Don't look for external validation. That's a form of invalidating yourself, looking for external validation. What if you just validate yourself and realize that you were just in a process and that your awareness, you were close to being completely dependent. And then as you started becoming independent, all of a sudden it was during those moments when you started becoming aware that your needs externally weren't being met. You were becoming dependent. You have to meet them yourself. I know I'm repeating that, but that is such an important point. Really, and it's up right now,
It is really up right now. I kind of had that. So my dad was an hour and a half away from, where I live. And so I drove, and in the car, it was kind of like this moment where, I call it a cracking, I cracked in
Beautiful.
The best possible way.
Purging.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was because I really got to this realization that I was going to have to step into, and maybe that was a choice, I didn't have to, but I did choose that.
Well, you were being given a hint. You were getting a glimpse, and you did it though. But because you got that glimpse, you did it as well as you did.
Thank you. But I stepped into that, unconditional love.
There you go.
And it was
that you always wanted.
That I always wanted. That's for me,
right? Exactly.
But I think the realization, if I just can I just like touch on how perfect
Right.
the timing of everything was. So I was planning like a self-induced retreat, you know, and I was like, I'm off the grid. I like nobody's gonna be able. I'm like prepping, you know, like the week before, and I'm doing all these things, and I have all my ducks in a row. My week is completely cleared out, and my dad goes into hospice.
Oh, I'll go one step further. You didn't even know that March 4th is Catalyst Day, because it March 4th, it was also my brother-in-law's birthday. He passed away. Yeah, great Granny Barry, my Allison, my wife. Well, yesterday was our anniversary. 33 years ago yesterday. So I wrote a song that was so beautiful. It's called Lifetimes, and it's like so many lifetimes in one. And I did that for Allison. But anyway, the bottom line, now what was I going? I forgot where I was going because I started talking about it in my brain. March 4th. Yeah, exactly. So you didn't even know that Catalyst Day is March 4th, and we celebrate that every year because it's moving forward. March 4th. Go forward, young man. March forward. That's your father's birthday. And that was amazing. And then he had a birthday on March 4th and passed away on March 5th, the very
like
next
literally
day.
An hour and 20 something.
That's what I'm saying.
After,
So that was also like,
that was really, but the whole thing was really, because, you know, I was able, like, cleared out my whole week, but, you know, okay, fine, this is where I'm supposed to be, because, you know, we don't, like, nobody tell, you know, it's not like in the movies where they tell you, oh, he has so much time. Like, nobody knows. It's
right.
up to him. Like,
Right.
yeah, who knows? But it was very, it was just beyond perfect, you know, because it was set up in such a way so that I can be completely and fully present and to that mystery. So like the hints that kept coming, it was kind of like observing myself, you know, be in this moment, and things like I heard myself speak, but there was no analytical, like there
no
was
relationship to it.
none.
Yeah.
And it was just so profound.
I love it.
when I did post that, because I'm not really big on social media anymore, and I don't really, you know, it's too much effort. It's just whatever. But I really wanted, and again, I put that up about my dad with, you know, our journey didn't have to be a forever, because I wanted to remember that, you know.
Well, it gave him permission to go and said, Dad, you didn't have to be forever. And
It
you
really
60 years is
does.
incredible. What are you going to say? It wasn't enough? Marriage, you know, or
you
daddy?
know, and the way like everything that happened, you know, and the way I was able to stay present with him, it's like I felt at so much peace that like I did right. I did right by him. I did right by me. I did right by my mom, you know, and my kids got to observe that. And it was like because I was kind of having a self-talk, you know, I could have. I have all the justifications, you know, we all do. We've all been done wrong. You know, I have justifications. And no, it's like that's not where the magic is. It really is not. It was, you know, if you
Let me ask you something, because I really want to know, are you comfortable in going there and talking about the last moments with him? Because I think that that's something that would be compelling for anybody watching or listening. You know, I think that would be really good.
Thank you for asking about that, because I might get a little emotional because you know, I feel like on an energetic level, and I don't know, like I haven't asked a guru or, you know, whatever, but I feel like because we are energetic beings, that when we take our last breath, that energy like poof, and it poof, into me, you know, like there is no like separation, like Michael starts here, I start here, this is where it's like we all, you know, and I really do feel like he went, like that energy just like dispersed, you know, you talk about like stardust, dispersed into like all of us, right? Back into the whole. But yeah,
but that was your experience.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? So what if that was a corrupted thought? What a beautiful way to use corruption, right? Because now you're programming yourself, and that's wise to say. Most people will go, that's crazy, you know, whoa. It's like, well, you know what's crazier? Using your concept instead of this one, because your concept really compromises the quality of our life, and this concept gives her peace, and you have a problem with her having peace. You really need her to adopt your ridiculous scientific, more true experience, as if there is one truth. Oh, I love you so much. I feel you.
Yeah, thank you. It's you know, I shared with you like we had some family over, you know, friends and whatever, and somebody like right after, it was like a week or so afterwards, and people were emotional, and of course, and then somebody came to hug me that she asked me like, how are you? And I said, I'm fantastic, No,
No, you're not.
I'm not.
That's what she said.
Response.
Yeah, yeah. She says, no, you're not.
No, I'm not. I was like, okay.
You could almost predict that answer.
But okay, I'm not gonna go there because that's like your reality, but no, really, I'm fantastic.
Right. No,
Anyway.
Deep down, you have a lot of hurt and a lot of wounds.
Right, that I'm not
we call that paradigm wars.
Right.
So I'm wielding this truth, which is not really pristine. You're wielding a pristine truth. I can't comprehend your pristine truth because my truth is more on a soapbox than your truth.
Right. So now we're gonna have this battle.
Right. No, I'll let you have it. No paradigm wars. We have multiple truths.
Exactly. So yeah. It was really interesting because I really was very in tune with, like I'm very blue. I know this, and so I feel a lot on a level.
Blue means spiritually guided. If in case you don't, red, yellow, and blue. Blue is very spontaneous.
Yeah, and it's like literally no logical, non-linear at all. And yeah, exactly. That was the really cool thing because time I had no reference, and yet everything was like perfect. It was really
it was actually in your face perfect. Like sometimes you can ignore the perfection, but this was slapping you perfect.
Yeah, it really was slapping you perfect. That's good. But I kind of like felt like he was started transitioning really quickly, and I've never been this close to somebody's passing. I've had some friends that passed away, but nothing where I was there and observing the whole process. So this was all new to me.
And it was your dad. You realize?
And it was my dad.
Oh my God. Girls and their fathers. Oh my God.
It was my dad. So I really kind of like had it in my brain. Like I knew his birthday was on a Wednesday, right? March 4th. And I was like, I don't know. And I was telling everybody, my kid, I don't know if he's going to make it. And it was like Tuesday morning. And I was like, I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if he's going to make it till Thursday. And it's his birthday. And my girls were like, Mom, his birthday's on Wednesday. I was like, but I don't think he's going to make it. So it was Tuesday where, Tuesday morning, and it was like something was off, and I have a brother 6 years younger, and he wasn't with my dad because a couple of days before that. And I was like, oh, something's going on. Something's like off. Something doesn't feel right. I didn't even know this until afterwards, but my brother literally felt physically sick. And he was like, okay, calling it quits, not going to work. I'm going to make time to, but so he was feeling something was going on. And it wasn't until like that Tuesday, the hospice nurse came in like early afternoon and said, oh, your dad started transitioning. Okay, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. So there were certain signs, that you watch for the physical body to go through until like the last breath. And so we, my girls and I came in on Tuesday, and it was the three of us, and Marcella brought, his favorite cake, and we got to stay there and like celebrate him, just have like a little early birthday thing for him. Because my mom was, she was having a hard time. So she just would come in for a little bit, and it was hard for her to watch. And so she would leave, and then it was just the three of us. And then I was like, okay, so my brother was making plans to come in on Wednesday, and I was gathering my youngest daughter, and we were going to like go back to Marietta so we can, a Tuesday night. And we're driving out of Athens, and I was like, I can't go. I can't go. And then I was like, what do we do? Do I get a hotel? Because like, now what do I do? Like I have my other daughter. So it literally all, like, I don't even feel like I figured anything out. It was like, here's what you do. And I just followed. So she went back to her sister's house and stayed the night over there. And I just felt compelled to be there with my dad. And I don't know if you've ever like been in nursing hospice. They're not set up for visitors to spend the night over there. It didn't matter, so I went back, and he was already like in and out, of consciousness. And I came in, like, and it was whatever, 7 o'clock. I don't know what time it was. And he was awake. He was agitated because I think, like, when he was in pain, he was awake and agitated. But he was awake. And I came in and he just kind of went, oh, like he was surprised to see me. And in that moment, I had the opportunity to say to him, hey, like, I'm going to stay here with you. And I said, I love you. And he closed his eyes and he said, thank you.
Wow.
Like with this breath, like, thank you. And he was in pain and he literally was like crawling out of his skin, he was like just
But you realize that was almost like him being forgiven just by saying, I love
yeah,
you. Do you when the way he took that,
yes,
he felt forgiven.
That's exactly what that felt like. Exactly what that felt like. And there was no conditions in this love, there was no like Marina, the daughter, that
didn't matter. It was all gone.
That was all gone.
All gone.
That was
It was nowhere in the room.
Nowhere. And then he was, like I said, he was crawling out, so he was in pain and I said to him, I'm going to go get you some help. I'll be right back. I said, but I'm staying here. I'm going to stay here with you. Cause I'm like, he doesn't know day, night, like whatever. I said, I'm just going to stay here with you. And he went, okay. And that was it.
Wow.
And I went to get help for him. And they, at that point he was on like he was on morphine for like every 4 hours and that wasn't working. So they went to every hour just to keep him like comfortable. And I stayed the whole night with him, just like listening, making sure like he was still breathing, and he was breathing. And so the following day is his birthday. And I'm there and I'm just like, I don't know, I was emotional for some reason. I'm not really even sure why, because I'm like, I felt so complete with him, that I was like, but whatever, I was emotional. And I was like, it's his birthday. And I was talking to the nurses and I said, do you think we can like clean him up, because my mom was like, oh, he needs a shave. And, he was like scratching. And so he's like blood caked on his, I was like, can we just like clean him up? And so she was like, yeah, the nurse was amazing. They have nurses that come in that just do that in hospice.
Like angels, really, seriously.
Like freaking angels. And I said, because I was emotional, I was like, it's his birthday today. And she goes, oh, well, we got to get you snazzy for the photo ops, She
great.
was incredible.
Oh,
and great. So he got to like, get all cleaned up for his birthday. And at that point, my mom came in and she was like, oh, you're here early. And I was like, well, I didn't, she didn't know that I didn't, leave. And I said, well, I didn't leave. And she said, why? Like, I think the whole time she just could not grasp, that he's really leaving. And I said, well, I was afraid that he wasn't going to breathe, during the night. So I felt compelled to stay. And so we ended up like having another, my brother came in and it was also very revealed. It was revealed to me. Like, it was like, I really wanted to stay. Because like I said, the whole time I wasn't sure if he was going to make it till Thursday, but I really felt like my brother really needed to stay. So, we left after we did a whole birthday thing for him. And so my brother actually stayed the night when he and got to witness him take his last breath.
Wow.
And it was my brother, like, because I talked to him afterwards and he said that was the longest conversation I've ever had with him.
Wow.
And he needed that, he needed that time with him. And so he was able to come to peace, with the whole thing.
See, the look on your face right there, I have to say this, that beauty on your face, that joy that you just had for your brother, you lit up like a Christmas tree right there.
I wanted that for him.
Well, there you go.
I really wanted that for him. You could spend your life, like, justifying the fucking stories. Or you could find peace and recognize that there actually was perfection in all of that.
Actually.
Actually, there
How about
was.
concede to it?
Yeah,
How
concede.
about there's perfection even if I don't see the perfection?
Even if I
Conceding to
don't,
that.
especially when I don't see the perfection.
There it is. That's when it has the most value.
Especially, yeah. So yeah, that was really. Um, I don't know. I just felt like all is well. All is well in my soul.
Right?
What is it? All is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all is well. All is well with my soul.
All is
It's my
well in my
coffee.
soul. You know.
Thank you for sharing that so much.
Yeah.
Really, that
Thank you
means.
for asking and allowing me to share that because.
Well, I didn't know we were going to go there, but when you
Yeah.
brought it up, I was just thinking,
Yeah.
like, wow, what a photo op or a video op. You know, I think
Well,
that's a really good thing to capture, to be honest. That
thank
was my
you.
service, to be
Yeah,
honest.
thank you. I really wanted to speak to that because, you know, I feel like getting getting a dose of, you know, this work and these concepts and like allowing that greaterness in you to evolve as it organically does and paying attention to all these things and coming back to it, you know, all really is well in my soul. I feel like the service is that it really truly does work.
It really does.
It
Well, you
really,
said before I
truly.
did my work and I wanted to interrupt. I'm saying, oh, you mean the work has been doing
The
you?
work has been doing me. Thank you. Thank
Because, you know, the ego
you.
wants to claim it. Like, if it's not
Yes,
your time, you
thank
ain't doing no
you.
work. And if
Thank
you're always doing the work because the work is doing you. And
See,
it,
I
in
love
perfect
that.
proportions.
I love this reminder. You know, you call it spotting, right? I love this reminder that happens because, you know, I don't know, some people, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I like see the truth in what you just said.
Well,
And
you know,
I'm
the
like
ego
not,
wants to claim
I'm
it.
not offended. Like
Right.
I'm not.
Well, you shouldn't be. You want to get outside that box. You want to, you know, this,
right.
if the circle is offended, go to a person that's not offended in you. Wield that power. How about a person that's compassionate or loving or doesn't have to put conditions or burden of conditions on somebody they're talking to fit into this one part of me that dominates my life most of the time and see me statically. You know, just see me as the person you've always remembered and I'm unchanging and it's always got to be my way. And if you don't meet the conditions of my way, well, you'll know. I'll make sure you know.
So circle back to the post that I did after sharing that story. Like
Please.
that was an organic response.
I really do love that. And so that was the thing that was so beautiful. And I would love for you to speak about like the mindset that you had at that time, because something made that organic for you to go there.
Thank you. Well, you know, so I called you, right? Because it was Tuesday, it was that Tuesday, it was his Wednesday. It was Wednesday morning, right? When he was his birthday. And I was like, okay, I know I'm doing really, really well. Like I was really proud of myself for stepping into all the things that I, you know, would present in and, you know, doing all, I was really proud of myself. And yet I felt like I wanted to reach out, you know, just to get like a little dose of, you know, and you did. You gave me those visuals, you know, with the peace dove and the heart and the, you know, the butterfly, because you've shared that at like the Blue Weekends and stuff.
It's in the book.
Yeah, and I was
Artifacts.
reminded. I was like, oh right, you know, and that was and so kind of gave myself a little bit of time to get grounded. But then I had to go back into, you know, that situation where there's like other dynamics happening, right? And I watched my and not that there's anything wrong with anybody's reaction, anybody's response, but you know, I kind of watched my mom's relationship with what was going on. And I really, you know, I've been the daughter. I've been in the role of trying to convince her to be otherwise. You know, I've been in that. I've been in the role of trying to fix, you know, because the way she's, you know, I've done all of those things. None of them worked, right? It only hurt me and it only hurt my relationship with me, you know? So I wanted to somehow like show, and this is why it was organic, because I really true believe that, you know, when you reminded me like our journey didn't have to be a forever. Yes, like that was the breath, that was the thing that I wanted to hang on to. And I wanted to give that gift to my mom.
That's a beautiful gift. Even if whether she gets it or not.
Whether she gets it or not.
Let me tell you, there's something really
matter.
there's it may be even more beautiful by offering the gift and not being attached for her to get it. That may make it even.
And actually, when you came back and you were like, that really touched me because you put, that wasn't even registering. I didn't do that for that. Mm-hmm. I did it because that's how I wanted to remember. That's what I wanted to hold on to. The story that I wanted to hold on to with my dad, you know, and I wanted to give that gift to really anybody but my mom, to be able to see things if she can't. And if she can't, that's fine. You know, maybe it's not her time. But I tell you what, I actually think she can. And I think she did.
That's beautiful.
Because I'm watching this woman for like, you know, my whole life saying like, Mom, but you can change. You can do this. You can. And she would say, no, I can't. This is what it is. And I can't. And it's like, okay, this is what it is. And no, you can't. Fine. I think she's actually like, I'm witnessing little things that are actually.
People may not know that they have pristine power, not just power, because you could say, no, I won't. And that's wielding power. It's just not pristine power. You're cursing. But people don't know that they have a pristine power. And I'm really all about encouraging people to wield their pristine power, because here's the reality. There's a natural consequence of not wielding your pristine power, and it ain't pretty. No. And what's so amazing is that it seems like it's not fair, but people who don't even know that they have a pristine power are getting a consequence, the same consequence of not wielding it. So that's why I love sharing these concepts, because it gives people a fighting chance to trip on them and happen upon them, so that they can choose to start wielding their pristine power, meaning get off your agenda. There's nothing wrong with having goals, but be cooperative in attaining it. And so, you know what I'm saying? I
know what you're saying, and I really want to make an emphasis on this, because, you know, when you really don't, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm going to say it again because I really believe this is that important. You don't even realize the consequences of not
wielding your pristine power.
You know, and so all these things that we look at that we say, this is broken, right? Even if you believe that, that's totally cool. You know, this is the integrity of your process. But there are consequences to that. And like you said, it is not pretty. And it's that's the real fight, you know, that's the real fight for us to really, I mean, maybe fight is not even a good word. You know?
Call to answer.
Call to answer, much better, thank you. You know, but a call to answer, and if we're not answering it...
Right. We're getting the consequence. So don't you see that we're being encouraged by the matrix, by God, by life's intelligence, by the wisdom itself, to actually come to that awareness? I came to believe. To come to believe that you have this much power and that you want to wield that. Don't throw yourself under the bus every opportunity. Don't, you know, you don't want to squander an opportunity to throw yourself under the bus and beat yourself up, but you'll squander an opportunity to wield your pristine power. So we may want to look at one.
Back to what I said earlier, you know, like, what if everything was so
I love that. And I wouldn't let you get away with it. What if? Oh, what if? Well, because it's a tickle. I have to spot. It's a tickle to go, what if? And it's like, yeah. Are you willing to consider the possibility that maybe what you're saying is true? Yeah. And if you go, I'm not willing to consider the possibility that maybe, well, then forget it. You've got no plasticity. There's no, the only way you can maintain health is that your body has to constantly adapt to the environment. And if you're not adapting at all, if you're not willing to consider the possibility that maybe what you're saying is brilliant, not in its truthfulness, but in wielding it.
You know what's also kind of like interesting and kind of funny to me is when you share things like this, right? That I'm just like, wow, you know.
It really is that awesome.
It's pretty awesome, right?
I got great kids.
Right.
That's true. I got great children. And that's true for Anthony, Angela, Thomas, my 700 plus songs, all these concepts. I've got great children.
Right. But when you like share this with people, you know, because people are like, you know, I tell people, oh, my, you know, so what's been going on? Oh, my dad, you know, so I had to like, and then like you share like, just like, you know, like the tip of the iceberg of the awesomeness, you know?
Right.
And it's really funny to me to watch people's like reaction, you know, or like, you know, their concept of, oh, she's not, you know, doing it like she's supposed to be doing it, like, you know, the way we've been programmed to do it, that's the right way, you know. And it's funny to me how people are not even like recognizing the lightness,
Right.
you know, the lightness that
Right.
is
Swirl, believe it or
that
not.
swirl, you know, and I don't need them to do that.
Right. Well, they're going to do it in their time. This question, will it be this lifetime? Will we see it? I mean, like, you know, I really do believe that. And even if that's true, it doesn't matter. I'm going to participate as if it's true because there's great functioning in that. I'll function better by thinking that way.
Yeah.
You know, we all have our head in the sand. We all do. So if you're going to put your head in the sand, let it be with that it's all good. It's all going to come around. It's all going to pay back. Everything is happening on your behalf, but it won't conspire to everything. You know what I mean? The universe is working on your behalf, but it won't conspire to your every whim. Yeah. I do love that. Yeah. You know?
I finally come to appreciate when you've said to me in the past about how, like, when you bleed, you know, you bleed well, and
you never saw that?
Whatever, you know. I don't,
never wasted a tear. You never got cheated. You never got cheated.
I actually finally, like, because you said something recently how you love it when, like, the challenges, when there are these challenges.
Because that's the opportunity. Yeah, the opportunities are presented.
The calls to answer, you know. And so I've really come to...
You got to capitalize. You got to capitalize. You got to capitalize. Truly... And you can't do it when you're not challenged. You can only do it when you are challenged. Yeah. Growth can only happen when you're actually challenged. Do you understand? You can't make progress if everything's going your way. Yeah. The only way you can ever make progress is when things are not going your way. You understand that? When everything is more chaotic, now you have the potential for greater growth. Yeah. Right now, you can actually do it. Capitalize. Yeah. Sanctify it. It's happening for you, not to you. Yeah. Marina, I love you so fucking much. Oh my God.
I love. Like,
let's close this up because we've been about an hour, and I feel complete.
This
good.
Feels really
I'm glad I said that.
Thank
you feel complete.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And I'm sorry it took so long, but in all due respect, I've only done Christina since you. My intention, just like anything else with social media or I have a podcast called Candles and Coffee, which this is on, but I only do it if I'm motivated or inspired to do it. I don't do it for mental override. Well, I have to do that. I got to schedule this. I got to do this. It's like, no, I'm going to trust that if I'm not feeling it, I'm not doing it. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but I don't really look to be very famous, obviously, or popular, because this work is certainly worthy of that, right? Obviously, but I'm not going to push it. I don't want to be aggressive with an agenda.
And then it ripples out at the right time to the right people, you know, where it needs to be. And I know you trust that. So
I have to.
Yeah. And so I know we talked about like doing this, but I really, truly, I'm with you on the same page. It's like it organically happened, you know, because now it was almost like my dad's passing and all that had occurred with that kind of like brought like all of this, you know, putting it into place and doing the things that it's like, this can be the result. Like,
let me tell you what I really believe. Maybe I'm hallucinating or delusional, but I believe that if anybody were to look at the last Candles and Coffee, which is the first one that you and I did, and looked at this, I think it's going to be hard to not say, wow, it's definitely moved. They're still growing. It's moving in the right direction, you know, and the work is doing us. But we have to allow that. That's the pristine path. We have to allow ourselves to melt in a certain direction. It doesn't have to be efforting. We call them breath steps. You know, take some breath steps, like lean into it, you know, but let it work on your behalf. Yeah. Don't get too overly aggressive. You'll miss the hints on how to do it optimally, you know. So just by doing it your way, you'll never grow in how to do it better.
I so appreciate you. I know, like, you talk about, you know, the us, but I just...
the us. I know you talk about the us. It's the us.
But I so appreciate the spotting that you do. I so appreciate the non-agenda, you know, because the more aware I become, the more I see the programming, whatever you want to call the agenda, you know. And
let's go corruption. Let's call it what it is, because it's corruption that causes, even though it has a wisdom and it has its place. Yeah, it is corruption, and we have to know we're innerly corrupted, and we have to clean that up.
It's a little bit like less breathful, you know.
Absolutely, more dense.
More dense.
Right.
And so I really appreciate
thank you.
here. So,
Thank you so much, so much. Can we do this again? And
I would welcome it, actually, because this
beautiful.
It really truly is beautiful. And in all, I've also kind of been quite, do we need more information?
Right.
Do we need, but
no, I'm not worried about that.
it's not the information, but it's like the lightness in this, like and it's not going to hit everybody, and that's totally fine, but just
the integrity of their process. It's going to hit who it's supposed to hit.
But just like to have like an option to like all of that other stuff.
Wield your pristine power. That's all I can say. If you're going to wield your pristine power, you're going to make great choices and much better choices. And those choices will have rippling effects that are really powerful. It doesn't mean you're going to get everything you ever desired, but the process can be unconditional. Unconditional living is where it's at. It's got to be unconditional living. And if you're having like your panties in a wad or a temper tantrum, that's the opportunity where it's more important to apply it. The minute you say something's wrong, capitalize on that, because this is your chance to grow. Isn't that beautiful?
It is really beautiful, and my life has become so much easier, and so much, and not that anything's like changed. You know what I mean? Like,
well, do you think that maybe you're trusting more? I mean, is that possible? Since the last one we did was called Radical Trust, would you like to speak on that? We can call this Radical Trust the follow-up. You know what I mean? How are we doing with trusting?
So the trust, so the radical trust comes in at moments when you need it like most, right?
Right.
So
well, you want to welcome it, concede to it, but it may not be on your sphere.
When it's those like you said, when those challenging moments. But I feel like, when I'm able to do that, and when I do that, or if I don't do that, then you're like,
you may want to call upon that. You may want to call on it because you're that powerful. And then if you concede to it, now you're functioning better. Isn't that interesting? Don't you want to handle it better?
That's exactly it. You do function better. And, I mean, I don't know. I've watched, now my dad, Pat, and, some friends, at the end, I was telling one of my daughters, my youngest one, I was like, at the end of the day, like when it's my time, I want to be known for somebody who did life really well.
And never got cheated.
Yeah.
Because you have done pain and
I've done it.
You've done it all really well, but you also celebrate just as well.
Right. So, and I've done that, and like, it wasn't about like, what I had, and I know we talked about this on the, whatever, it wasn't about all the haves, the have-nots, or like, I've done whatever was brought into, and done that well, and I've only been able to do that well because I truly recognize the wisdom, that wisdom.
There it is. And you're acknowledging it, its presence. That's huge.
Yeah.
One of the songs I wrote, the last song on the new album is called Hallelujah. Well, actually, it's not called Hallelujah. I say Hallelujah a lot, but instead of calling it Hallelujah, since that name, including I've already have a song named Hallelujah, but there's some, I really, really do love it. I called it Praise and Gratitude, which is what hallelujah means. And most people don't think of that because they put hallelujah with church, with mass, with he is risen. And there's nothing wrong with that. It works there, but we need to take it, not necessarily let it be exclusive to Christianity or church. Use it in your everyday life. It means praise and gratitude. And that's what this is. So if you have one prayer, my friend Christina, she used to say, her dad used to say, the only prayer is thank you, always thank you. And hallelujah is a way of praise with gratitude, like, oh, hallelujah, it's all good. It's all always well, all is well, always has been, always will be. All is well with my soul. Hallelujah, And I love that all my Christian friends are going, yay, look at that. He's promoting Christianity. Right. No, he's promoting a high quality of life when we're using those words. We want to use those words. Like we can say, Mazel Tov, you beautiful human being. My mother's Polish-Russian Jew, or was. She passed, obviously. But it's so funny that you mentioned that we've got that connection.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That makes me literally legally Jewish. But it really does. But now I only have sisters. So, and then my one sister Donna, she actually is Jewish. She was like my Aunt Mary. She's like the same, and she married Michael Rothstein. So she's Donna Rothstein. Where Maria is more like my father. Tony Semeka, my son. It's just so. Anyway. Love you, man. Thank you. Till next time.
Yes.
Bye.